The firing of Matt Millen, the president, CEO, GM, and all the other titles he has in the front office of the Detroit Lions should come as no surprise. He's had a long time to build this team, and they've been a pathetic organization, not only with Matt, but in modern times, as long as I can remember when I played in the league and now. This team really didn't scare anybody unless Barry Sanders was on their team. But Matt Millen, under his regime, this team's has been the worst in the NFL. It was time for a change. Now, before you point all the fingers at Matt Millen, recognize that these players must be accountable and coaches to get something done. Matt's changed coaches, he's changed players, and these guys still don't respond. It's almost like it's Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Whenever you go to Detroit, dark cloud hanging over you and everything's bad. The Detroit Lions need to fix it. And by getting rid of Matt Millen, it needed to happen. Matt was a wonderful football player. I'm a fan of his, and I think that he is the biggest problem for him, just from an outsider looking in, is the intensity he played with. He wanted to take to the front office, and sometimes you got to take emotion out of it, and he couldn't do that. And it just didn't happen, regardless of who the coach was or the player was. And Matt was, when he left broadcasting, I thought he was the best game analyst in football. So Matt's going to land on his feet fine. And something tells me deep down that I think Matt's okay. It was time. While he may feel like he failed at this, which he did, but it's not just his fault. Matt probably thought, you know what, it's time for a change. And we saw this coming. Detroit needed to do it, but it's time for the players to step up and take some accountability, because some of the draft picks they had over the years, other teams would have drafted them had they had the picks before the Detroit Lions. So it can't just be Matt Millen pointing all the fingers at him, but this is a win now, and we want success now league. The NFL, if you don't win, it's time to replace you. And Matt got more time than most guys would have in his situation. And you know what? The Ford family loved him, and it just didn't work out. I don't see Matt in the front office from this debacle that went on in Detroit, but I don't believe it's just his fault. That being said, the Detroit Lions, it starts at the top, goes to the coach, and goes to the quarterback, and spreads out throughout the rest of the organization. Matt Millen, it was time. I don't like to see anybody get fired. It's time for Detroit to move on. But if you fans out there think that Detroit's going to have overnight success, it's not going to happen, because Matt didn't throw one ball, make one catch, jump off sides one time, or miss one tackle, just like the next CEO or president isn't going to do. Players play, coaches coach, which is obvious, and front office sign checks and draft the right people. And Detroit, for whatever reason, hasn't been on the same page with anybody, front office, coaching, players. It's been pathetic to watch, and it'll make you throw up. That being said, Detroit needed to move on. Matt Millen needed to move on. A change is good, and maybe, just maybe, Detroit, 2-3 years, I don't know. They were pathetic, and they're still pathetic, and I don't see it changing. I'm trying to find a light at the end of the tunnel, and I haven't seen it. It was time for Matt Millen to go, but don't worry about him. He's going to be fine. Detroit needed to make this change.
So you think you can tackle a pro? There's only one way to find out. Click on fantasy at opensports.com.